The CCP's efforts to normalize censorship in China. Commentary. The Chinese Communist Party has taken a new approach to domestic censorship. In an effort to placate the public, the CCP is shifting focus away from vanishing posts and public rebukes. The approach is more subtle, woven into the algorithms, registries, and model training rules, deciding what most people see before they even know they are looking for it. Between 2022 and 2025, Chinese authorities shifted from visible takedowns to engaging the very machinery of content creation and distribution. The shift is technical, yes, but its effect is personal. The feed feels natural, even as divergent voices never make it in. The story begins in March 2022, when the administrative provisions on algorithm recommendation of Internet information services required platforms capable of shaping public opinion to submit their recommendation engines to the Cyberspace Administration of China for review. The filings were dull on paper. Off paper, engineers handed over dataset inventories and internal risk audits that mapped the inner workings of their systems in uncomfortable detail. In 2023, the interim measures for the administration of generative AI services tightened the loop and began requiring every algorithm-generated item to be labeled and traceable. The following year, CCP officials ushered in the Beijing Algorithm Registration Center in the capital's so-called AI Valley. The high-security building enforces strict access control measures, and registration is not merely a bureaucratic formality. It is a prerequisite for accessing computer resources, buying and selling in data markets, or securing standing in intellectual property disputes. Those who fail to register aren't just out of compliance, they're locked out of the digital economy's most essential infrastructure. The mechanics of this new control are as deliberate as they are invisible. Algorithms now have the capacity to suppress reach before a story gains momentum, and provenance tags can slow the spread of content in real time. Posts do not vanish in a public sweep. They sink quietly, buried under the churn of newer, favorable material. When industrial accidents shook provincial cities in 2024, images from bystanders still existed online but were pushed so far down the feed they might as well have been buried under the ocean floor. For many who were on the ground, the only way to share was through private message chains that never breached the broader public sphere. While the Cyberspace Administration of China holds a detailed map of the country's algorithmic landscape, from content ranking logic to dataset provenance, the public sees only broad summaries stripped of meaningful detail. Analysts at the Asia Society Policy Institute Center for China Analysis note that regulatory ambiguity and ad hoc enforcement in China create persistent uncertainty for companies, a point echoed by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development's warning that such environments can undermine investor confidence and elevate the cost of doing business in China. In this climate of shifting signals, investors build in an opacity premium, a financial buffer against policy moves that can jolt markets without warning. The effect is magnified in an economy already stricken with slowing growth and deflationary pressures, where hesitancy is the response to each incremental increase in perceived risk. The result is not simply fewer foreign investments, even domestic entrepreneurs scale back, wary of investing resources in projects that may underperform due to unseen algorithmic rules. The impact is even evident in public health and emergency services. Effective crisis response depends on early noise, the half-formed warnings, local chatter, and imperfect data that point to trouble ahead. In Beijing's model, those signals are choked off until officially verified, often too late to matter. During the surge of respiratory illnesses among children in late 2023 and 2024, rumors from county-level clinics spread by phone among waiting patients but never surfaced in public feeds. By the time the information was made official, hospitals in multiple cities were already under strain. Health workers later described the eerie quiet online, the absence of the usual spike in chatter that helps authorities and citizens gauge the speed and spread of an outbreak. From the perspective of Zongnanhai, the architecture works beautifully, no messy deletions to defend and no sudden flares of viral descent, a governance model where regulatory objectives align neatly with industrial policy goals. Yet that very neatness is a warning sign. Like plate glass, systems engineered to avoid small shocks are often brittle in the face of large ones. The national security law in Hong Kong imposed immediate calm but slowly eroded adaptability. Beijing's upstream controls seem poised to make the same trade-off in the digital sphere. Even more concerning is the mobility of these restrictions. Compliance norms born in Beijing can travel anywhere where global platforms localize for China or where Chinese companies invest and build infrastructure abroad. These partnerships often come with embedded technical standards, such as registering algorithms, exposing datasets, and tagging artificial intelligence outputs from the outset, which can seep into the host country's digital governance without the fanfare of formal adoption. In some cases, local regulators welcome the ready-made compliance framework, seeing it as a shortcut to manage their own information environments. In others, it arrives indirectly, through joint ventures where Chinese partners control critical systems. The CCP's censorship architecture is developed to be as much an export as its physical infrastructure projects. What began as a series of regulatory updates has metastasized into a doctrine. It advances without spectacle, tightening the thresholds of communication in ways that feel seamless until the absences become undeniable. Like the slow siege that reshaped Hong Kong, this digital strategy rewires the environment itself, making censorship a naturally present condition rather than a visible act. It doesn't need to cross a border to shape the conversation beyond it. It only needs to influence the architecture through which that conversation flows.